This is Red Moon Role-Playing. Welcome to Red Moon Role-Playing, where we will today begin our new short campaign for KULT Divinity Lost that I have chosen to call A Hole in My Heart. It's Thursday, November the 7th, 2024, in a little slice of paradise on Earth called Corvallis, Oregon. Population 61,152. The city is mostly known for featuring the main campus of the Oregon State University. Go Beavs. Predominantly white and, well, rather affluent, really. The city voted heavily for Biden in both this and the last election, and, well, the place is really the kind of microbrewing, progressive hipster utopia that the Shapiros and Walshes of the world love to ridicule. The city is surrounded by lush forests and is only a 1-hour drive away from the Pacific coast. You hit the I-5 and you can reach Portland in just 90 minutes. Being in the Pacific Northwest means that you do get a lot of rain here, and the nightlife is very much underwhelming. This really is a place for family. And if you can afford it, it's a great place to live in and a great place to raise that family in. Dr. Jermaine Christensen. This is the choice that you have made. You've chosen to build your life here, to have your children grow up in Corvallis. And that there's a large hospital in the city has, of course, helped as well. You are a doctor, after all. Instead of being out on the town tonight, you are at home with that family. You're reading to your 6-year-old. What is her name and how does she look like?
My 6-year-old is Cadence. She looks a lot like her mother with brown eyes and brown skin. She has a smile that seems infectious to everyone around her. And she's the apple of my eye. I'm not the kind to make a very interesting story myself or be very good at reading a children's book, but she makes me want to try and do that. Like me, myself, being a big sportsman. I love sports. That's what I prefer to spend my hobby time as, and she doesn't. Not as well. She can't, not really, because of reasons. So I try to make her happy the best that I can. And at this moment, that's reading a story.
What are you reading to her?
I'm reading to her the story about the 2 dogs that were looking for their names.
Is that a story that she likes? Is it one that you have read to her many times before, or is this the first time?
This is a storybook that we picked up quite recently. I haven't read it myself yet, so it's kind of fun, I guess, finding out what's gonna happen as we read along. She had an encounter just the other day with a big golden retriever, which is one of her friends at school's dog, and then she started nagging me about getting a dog and everything about dogs, and I dug up this book from one of the bookshops and hoped that this was gonna sate the need for a while, and instead of going straight to the pet shelter and adopting one.
Indeed. Adopting a pet is it's a lot of responsibility, and there's quite a lot of responsibility in your life already. Your daughter listens attentively as you're reading to her, but you can see that her eyes are growing ever so heavier and sleepier. She'll probably fall asleep before you finish the book. She's a normal kid, In all ways, really. Except for that one thing that you mentioned. When she was 3, it was discovered that she had a congenital heart disease, and a rare one at that. Shimizu syndrome. Combined with factors that make a normal heart transplant, if one could even be found, all but impossible. Even small genetic incompatibilities from a donor would cause a catastrophic immune response from her, it seems. Now, having that weak heart has made her frail, and it's become apparent that she can't play as actively or energetically as her sister, or other kids for that matter. But she's still happy, and she still likes all those things that kids like dogs, and she's very much in love with life and experiencing and learning new things, of which there are so very many. The thing is that the prognosis gives her maybe another 3 years, and then her heart is going to give out, and there's no cure. Well, not yet, anyways. Because ever since her condition was found, you have dedicated all your energy to finding a solution. You're a doctor, and a good one at that. And pediatric heart disease is something that garners a lot of sympathy. There's a lot of public support, and, most importantly, especially in the United States, there's a lot of donations. And both the university and the hospital have been very cooperative. They've even assigned one of their most senior cardiovascular specialists, Dr. Tiana Whitehead, to help manage your research project so that you can focus all your energy on the research and on the data. What you've been doing thus far has been looking at the possibilities of gene modification using CRISPR-Cas9 and a very promising type of treatment, which is xenotransplantation. If this works, you could essentially grow a new compatible heart without defects within another organism. For example, an animal like a pig or a simian of some kind. Then you would harvest this organ when it was ready and then transplant it to the person affected by the disease. This is a method that would allow you to reach a very high degree of compatibility with the receiver. And, well, in this case, the receiver would be your daughter. That should ensure that the new heart would be accepted instead of triggering a fatal immune response. But it's not, of course, all about your daughter. Because if this would pan out, this could start a complete revolution within the field. It would help seriously address the lack of organ donors and help save tens of millions of lives around the world. It's a long shot, sure, but with potential rewards this astronomically high, it's one that your employers have gladly embraced. And it's not like it's a completely out there idea. The University of Maryland were looking into similar research a few years ago. They ran out of funding, but it's promising. Would you actually feel comfortable doing this operation on your daughter in case it came to that?
No, my specialty hadn't been surgery directly as such. But I feel that the things that I have learned through my intense work with Dr. Whitehead would put me in a position where I, if need be, could do the operation, the surgery, preferably with assistance, of course. Now, the problem, of course, is having the actual sample.
Yes, there is that. There is that. As you look up from the book, you see that your daughter is firmly asleep. So, innocent and sweet.
I try and close it as quietly as possible, feeling that we left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger where both dogs had been out into the world and were just coming back to tell each other about their names. But, well, sometimes you must be patient. Something that I'm not always managing. I hate the disease. I hate the unfairness of it all, and how incredibly slow legal proceedings can become when there isn't monetary gain. The course of our research has, well, come to a grinding halt because of this. And for other reasons as well. People who don't understand and see eye to eye with those wanting to help our race, the human race, and those that are important within it, those who would sympathize more with the animals that we share the planet with, which I don't think is wrong. I just don't see why that should be the priority when we could save so many. And especially when some perhaps earlier stages of a particular branch of research might have to require some more sacrifices until you refine them, until you made those strides. I try and shake it off from my head as I look at her there in bed and turn off the light as I leave her little room.
How do you look like, Dr. Christensen?
I am often wearing relaxed sportswear when I'm home, and even if I'd be working from home, that's what I'd be dressing up in. And today I'm wearing the jersey of the Oregon State Beavers with a brown and orange. I've got a bony face, intense dark blue eyes, bit of graying hair, actually a bit of a bald patch have been growing out there. Quite angular, all in all, in my body. My wife keeps telling me to just eat more. Well, she used to, at least, until she realized it just doesn't stick. I'm a little too slim, a little too almost bordering on underweight, but it just doesn't stick. I don't know. Could be all the sports and running that I love doing together with her. But yeah, that's me. I look a bit skinny in my big jersey, but I smile as I walk by and I try and brush off a stain from someone brushing their teeth with their mouth a bit too open.
You pass by your other daughter's room. The door is closed, but you can hear sounds coming from inside. You know what that is. It's the sound of a TikTok video that's playing on her phone in there, isn't it? What's your older daughter's name, and what is the big thing that she's into recently? What is the TikTok craze that she's following the most now?
My older daughter is Ira. She's 10 years old since a couple of weeks. She too hasn't really garnered an interest for sport. And that's how it is, you know. You try and offer them everything, but they're gonna make their choices eventually. And she's gotten into some kind of doll collecting. She's collecting different dolls of, I think it's some series that with monster like high school girls or something like that. She's keeps watching these videos of people buying these dolls and picking them apart and then doing custom versions of them. My wife has tried to explain this to me, but it apparently is something that you can spend a lot of time with, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. She's bonding very well with my mother-in-law, Talisha, but unfortunately they don't live in the same city. But me, myself, and my wife, we don't really share these interests, so her looking at that, it's a bit of a conundrum to me. And she's up a little bit past her bedtime. She's not that old yet. I didn't give her that phone so that she could neglect her other duties.
Indeed not. It's supposed to be for GPS, so you can keep track of where she is and make sure she doesn't get abducted or end up getting lost in the woods or something like that. That's what that one's for. You notice that as you are stepping in the corridor, the floorboards, they creak a little bit, and immediately see that the light turns off and the phone goes quiet. She's not stupid.
Ira, you still awake in there?
An exaggerated snoring sound comes from inside.
Good night, Ira, I say. And give a yawn and a little shake of my head. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about her, as long as she does her homework and she behaves all right with the other students. I suppose I'll be all right. If anything happens, I'll have to threaten to take the phone or something. Yeah, I'm trying to make ideas in my head.
She's been relatively easy to take care of. The focus has been on your younger daughter, on Cadence, since the disease was found. Both you and your wife have had to spend a lot of time being focused on her and taking care of her, and having her go to checkups and making sure that everything is under control, and that has meant that she's gotten a lot less attention. But she's been okay with that, and she's done what she's been asked to do, and she's not bothered you all that much. She's not taken a lot of room, which is, on the one hand, something that makes your life a lot easier, but it also means that well, you wonder sometimes, perhaps, if she feels like she's not getting the kind of attention that she should be getting. It's a thought that's crossed your mind, but
I do think about that. And it's just hard. It's just hard with Cadence always needing 2 sets of eyes on her. And Ira, I think the other week or so she had a dance performance of some kind, and we were gonna go to it, but unfortunately then Cadence had a small hiccup, and we ended up having to make sure she was okay first. I suppose I should be grateful. Ira is quite self-sufficient, but it's hard to get through to her. It's hard when you don't relate to her interests. I should probably try and do something that could engage all of us, or so. Maybe I could ask her if a film is coming out that she wants to see.
You pass by your daughter's room and begin making your way downstairs, where your wife is sitting in her armchair. She's reading a book. She's got the cup of herbal tea that she's usually sipping on a small table next to her. You see the TV is on MSNBC in the background, the sound off. Focus is totally, of course, on the presidential election that happened 2 days ago and the fact that it's still too close to call. This is going to take a while. Recounts are happening across the country. But that doesn't matter, right? What's your wife's name, and how does she look?
We got Mikkel, my wife, my best friend, and she's got big black hair that stands out beautifully, and I just love putting my hands in all that hair and ruffle it about. She hates that. Well, she says, but she always smiles when I do it. She's got dark skin, dark brown eyes, just like almost both my daughters, where Ira's slightly lighter in tone. And she is she's not overly slim as I am, but we do a lot of sports together, so she's quite athletic as well. Even though we're both starting to get a little bit older, so you can tell in places, but I like it. It's right. It's as it should be. She's healthy and very competitive counterpart for me to have around.
What kind of books is it that she likes to read? What is she reading right now?
As she sits there with the news on, yeah, of course, there's always a book there. And it's fun. She used to be very much into modern crime and the like. But recently she's gotten so much into like old classical things like Plato, philosophical things, and meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Is that Stoicism something that you identify with as well, or is that just her?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I'll always listen to it when she talks about it. I could see how it's useful. I could, but it's I'm not that kind of getting into self-help or self-care kind of guy. I feel like I've got most of the things I need sorted out.
She looks up to you and smiles as you come down the stairs. Thank you for putting her to bed. You were so good to me. I was so tired. How was she?
No problem, I say, and I come over and I gently try and ruffle her hair a little bit. She was fine.
She playfully pushes you aside like she normally does when you do that, but then pulls you closer.
Yeah, she was fine. She likes the dog book that we found. I don't know if we should. Yeah, how much more we should encourage that, though. Do you want a dog?
Maybe later, when there's less things to worry about. It's a bit too much. And how soon do you think you can resume the research again? I'm sorry for keep asking that. She is continuing to ask that every other day, actually. You think you'll be able to do it within the coming month, but there's still a lot of paperwork to secure the new test subjects. There's also the matter of beefing up security at the lab to prevent a repeat. Lots of purchase requests, meetings, and other things that are taking you away from what you really would like to be doing.
Oh, it's just a matter of getting that paperwork all filled out and ready, and I mean, hopefully within a few weeks. I don't want to give you false hopes, but I'm really hoping that by the end of next month at least, we should be going as well with the new subjects that we need to acquire. It's a hassle. It's so much bureaucracy around these things, I say, and I struggle with looking into her eyes as we're talking about this, because I feel like I could have done something beforehand to avoid this from happening. You just don't expect it in a town like Corvallis. Not here.
That's true. This is such a safe and secure place where very little happens really, and people are nice to each other. Have the police found out anything? Have they kept you up to date about their investigation?
Oh, they're keeping their mouths shut for the time being, as it's pending. They don't want to let anything out about who or what. But we are in talks with a better security company that should be able to, just make sure that when we start again, there will be no bumps, and we can just look forward to, the end of this and an operation for our little one.
And yeah, the police have been rather mum. The thing you have found out is that, they did find prints all over the place, which initially was something that seemed promising, but, whoever did it seems to not have had a criminal record. It seems to have been kind of stuck after that. You would have hoped that there would have been something that would come back. I mean, where would someone keep animals like those in Corvallis? I mean, they could be anywhere at this point, you suppose.
Yeah. If they had been completely set free, He would have been seen. People would have reacted. It's not like you see monkeys running around in the streets here normally. And here, no. And that does really mess with my head. What would they do with him? I think it's just some animal activists doing something. Hardly a thing for a competing company to come in and do this. It would be too obvious. If they came up with the results when we have all the official paperwork. It has to be someone with a strange personal interest in this. Or someone who wants to just sabotage the experiments. But then what would they do with them if they had them? And is that one? The one I particularly had sought out to be host for my daughter's heart. Is that one still alive? I had to work so hard just to get it active. It was as if they didn't want to live almost at times, and I had to do a lot of things to keep them moving, to make sure that the heart they were growing was strong enough.
Indeed. I would like you to roll Experiment Gone Wrong and Bad Reputation, as we are now in the first session.
For Experiment Gone Wrong, I roll 11. For Bad Reputation, I roll 15.
That is one of the things about this. I mean, obviously, animal rights advocates or activists of some kind does seem like a not unlikely explanation to all of this. You have certainly thought about that, and the police have been looking into similar things. Animal tests are, well, controversial, especially on animals that people have more sympathy for. Pigs are one thing, most people eat pigs. But simians, monkeys, apes, they are, well, it's quite a different thing. Everything that you have found in your research indicates that would be the best way forward, so that's the path you've taken. But it's strange that nothing has been published, that there hasn't been any expose in the news or some kind of letter sent or something like that, something to blackmail you or expose what you've been doing. Nothing like that. It's strange.
I did expect something to happen soon afterwards. I expected some sort of exchange. Someone making themselves known. Like either because of wanting to spread their rebellion or whatever this is about. To share that they'd liberated these test subjects. Or making demands. There's been nothing. And I try to calm myself. I notice my hand is straining a little bit. Maybe holding my wife's hand a little too hard. And I say tiredly, sorry, It's a tough place to go to, I know.
I know, honey. I know you're doing everything that you can. And look, you have all my support and all my love. There's no one else that can do this. And don't feel pressure. We both know that the prognosis is it's not great. But we'll do what we can together. Yeah? And is your wife a religious person?
Yeah, she is.
I've been spending a lot of time praying for her and for you, and I suppose it's in God's hand and in yours.
Yeah, I know. I do the same. I know your mom and dad are doing the same too.
I've been getting pretty sleepy, actually. Maybe it's about time for us to get to bed too.
Yeah, I feel a little bit. I'm It's a bit late, but I feel like I'm a bit restless today. I was thinking that maybe I'd go for a late run if we didn't need anyone. I mean, if we didn't have to be nearby them, I'd ask you to go with me for a bit, but...
Instead of heading out, why don't you do some other kind of workout? I have a challenge for you. I would like you to carry me upstairs to bed, just like you did after we got married, and maybe there'll be a surprise for you, maybe.
I feel like my arms maybe could use a bit of a workout too, and I lift her up, almost stumbling a little bit. Oh, easy lifting.
This is going to give you a back injury at some point. You're not there yet. Your back's still fine, but one day.
One day, but not today. And when that day comes, I'll be in good hand of my colleague physiotherapists. Let's challenge this until we can't challenge it no more. And I start trying to get us both up the stairs and see what she has in mind for me this time.
And night falls on the Christensen household. And before we move on to our second character, can I now ask you to select 2 dramatic hooks?
First, I thought we'd just shortly mention the status then of the project. So we've got me and Dr. Whitehead, the one trying to work on it, but we are at a halt right now. Are they still working on this, or?
I was thinking that Dr. Whitehead is still part of the project. You've noticed that she really didn't take what happened well. You've gotten a little bit of a bad vibe from her lately. You're going to see her tomorrow night, so perhaps you'll see how things have developed. But for right now, she's still on the project, and she is damn good at what she does. There's no one more experienced in this field than her in Corvallis.
Well, maybe something associated with that. Something like confronting her about why she's not pushing this further and making things happen. She was so into it when we were doing it, but as soon as this bump in the road happened, I feel like she lost part of her conviction. Like, things doesn't have to be so easy. So maybe I can confront her about that.
All right. What's your second dramatic hook?
I could talk to Coleman about seeing if we could get more funds.
There's going to be a charity dinner tomorrow night, actually. And that would be a pretty good place to see if you can get some more funds from Mr. Coleman, perhaps. All right. Well, then you have your 2 dramatic hooks there. And then we will move to our second character, Mr. Coleman. We find you standing in the grand entrance of your manor house, where you usually meet and say farewell to guests. Can you describe yourself?
Well, my name is Daniel Coleman. I'm not too old man yet. I'm only 37, but I like to think I look a little younger. I'm well dressed. I like to sport a little bit of a goatee when I can, but otherwise I try and keep up good appearances. And currently, dressed in a nice red suit, I'm standing in my home, the Coleman Manor, which is a very lovely piece of property here in Oregon. Been here for a long time. My great-grandfather built the place, although of course I've made sure to modernize it since then. But no, it's a great property, great view of the woods, and yes, that's me, currently saying farewell, I imagine, to the last guests to leave. It's been a good party tonight, but as always, now it's just me in the old house.
Indeed. And as you said, today has been a good day. You've had some guests over for a little get-together, and you have been cataloguing a new delivery of precious artifacts that was purchased by your agent in Gabon. There was a coup over there quite recently that provided you with great opportunity to purchase some, distressed assets. The Akan terracotta statues and brass artifacts are going to make a fine addition to your collection.
They certainly are. And, I'm not a greedy man. I'm sure I'll sell some of it as well. After all, some of it's purely just valuable, but some of it has some historical significance as well, and I am a big history buff. I love my history. So one of the reasons I like to live in Oregon. Oregon has fascinating history, going back far beyond just the American settlers, of course. No, far, far beyond that, to the First Nations. It's a good state.
To help you with the appraising and cataloging, you've had help from Miss Forrest, who is the one that you're actually now about to say goodbye to for the night. She's the last guest to leave. How does Miss Elizabeth Forrest look like, and what is it about her that's gotten you to generate a bit of a crush for her?
Miss Elizabeth Forrest, what can you say? She dresses well, she wears her blonde hair nice and neat. She's got those glasses that, she doesn't really need, but she thinks makes her look slightly more intellectual, and there's something quite attractive about that. What can I say? She's a doll. But, well, not that I'd ever say that, because, relationships never go well for me, and I wouldn't want to make things weird and make things unprofessional, but no, Miss Forrest is a keeper. She's really knowledgeable at what she does as well, and I greatly respect people who are good at what they do.
Well, I think that was some great work we were able to do today. Congratulations again on the great additions to your collection, Daniel.
Thank you.
The Akan culture is truly fascinating, and I feel really privileged to have been able to see these artifacts in person.
Thank you, Miss Forrest. No, I'm hoping that I can find them a good home.
Well, do call on me again whenever you need any help. It's not that she does this totally out of the kindness of her heart, necessarily. It is her job, and she is paid for it. But you have tended to feel that your relationship isn't just a professional one. That you're at least friends? Perhaps can be even more, but as you said, professionalism, it's difficult.
By the way, I hope you'll be coming to my Christmas party. I'll be having us on the 21st.
Love nothing more. That would be great.
Wonderful. I'm hoping for once for it to be a relaxed affair, not too much business, maybe a little bit of pleasure. It's been a long year and I can't keep making investments.
It certainly has been a long year, but it's been a good one, and it's really great to see all the things that you're able to bring back here. It's you have a great reach out into the world, don't you?
I've got a lot of friends. What can I say? I'm lucky in that way.
Well, thank you again for today. She smiles and somewhat awkwardly moves to shake your hand, adjusting her hair a bit. And then just as you're about to shake hers, she seems to change her mind and seems to be offering a hug instead. Do you accept?
I do. It's a little awkward, but, well, that's not so bad. And I say, hey, make sure you get home okay. You've got a good cab.
I have one waiting outside. It's going to be fine. You feel her hair against your cheek as you're hugging her. What does she smell like?
I reckon she must be wearing some sort of that strawberry-scented perfume, or maybe lavender. I can't really tell. I'm not an expert on smell, but something nice.
There's a little voice in your head that says that she's just flirting with you to get your money, your family's money, of which there is, of course, considerable amounts. What is the main source of your family's wealth?
That's a very good question. I mean, originally it was mining. The Coleman family name, almost quite ironic, but it wasn't coal, but it was any natural resources. Oregon once was a very, very rich area for natural resources. Look at these woods, but obviously in the modern era I have tried to modernize a little, branch out into things.
Indeed, you are diversifying. Speaking of your parents, by the way, where are they? And siblings? Do you have any?
No, I'm an only child. My mother passed away a very long time ago, shortly after I was born. Father, he lived long enough to set things up for me, but he passed away, when was it? 10 years ago. Liver failure. The alcohol probably didn't help.
No, it didn't, did it? Was it a big problem for the family? Did he act out against you and his wife, or?
I feel it was the opposite. Father was very distant. He liked to keep to himself, keep to his parts of the house. Parts of the house I, in a way, have left. It's a bit big just for me, so other than getting cleaners every now and then, a lot of the house I just keep in a nice state of mild occupation. I have my own bedroom, my ensuite, my kitchen and bathroom, my rooms, and then, well, the rooms for the exhibitions, the basement, the rooms in the basement. And then there's a whole wing or two that, yes, a guest can stay there, but I don't really have many guests or staff.
Well, I'll see you again soon, Elizabeth says, and closes the door behind her. And as she leaves the manor, it's again silent, except for the loud ticking noise of the J.H. Miller grandfather clock in the dining hall. It's echoing.
Yes. I'll go pour myself a whiskey. Again, in the morning, I'll get some people in to clear up the party mess. Not that it was that crazy, only 20 people. And again, we're all adults. The days of partying are well behind me, I think. Nope, just me.
You are standing here alone in this manor house, and the clock is ticking. Is this what you want, to be alone in this massive house? Is this what the future looks like for you?
I don't know. Not really. I sip my whiskey. I take a stroll, look out the windows. At this time of night, you can't see anything out in the forest, but you know it's there. No, it's a cold, lonely house, but I don't really have a choice. I need to keep the house, and I can't sell the house and move things anywhere. No, that would be unsafe. There are things I need to keep behind the wine cellar in the real basement that need to be kept here. It's important. It's for safety. Not my safety, but other people's safety. And like I said, some things in this world need to be kept safe.
Indeed.
And so even though the house is empty and lonely, I accept it for now. Besides, it's not like I haven't tried to have people here long term, but...
Speaking of which, can you please roll your disadvantage haunted?
9.
So we were speaking about you being alone in the house now. Did you have any previous relationships? What happened to those? Or have you been single all this time?
There were a few girls when I went to, university. I studied history, of course, and finance. I guess I've been unlucky in that front. Maybe you can't be lucky in everything. I've got money, I've got friends, but love, connections, no. Not yet, anyway, but you never know. That could change one day.
It could. But there's that feeling, right? That feeling of you have the money, and you know that they know that you have the money. Is it real? How have you dealt with those kinds of feelings of whether someone is actually interested in you or just interested in the fortune?
Funnily enough, I have a little test. How long can they stay in the house? I've noticed sometimes, and I know it sounds silly, but sometimes I think the house is on my side, Like it doesn't bother me that much, not really, so maybe it's watching out for me. Again, it's, anyone who stays here too long always seems to want to leave suddenly or have places to be. I guess maybe someone who really wanted to stay. That would be a good sign, right? Of course, maybe this is all nonsense, but... Well... The world isn't quite what it seems. This is something I know. This is something my father taught me, one of the few things he truly believed was important to teach me other than good finance. So, yeah, maybe this house is on my side. Surely it is on my side, and in return I'm gonna take good care of it, as long as I can. Even if maybe sometimes it's a little lonely.
You find yourself heading through your gallery where you have some of the artifacts, not the most valuable ones, of course. You have to keep those safe, but you have your Incan statues, Roman coins, Japanese swords, Benin bronzes. You have it all. It's all yours, and you can look at all these artifacts whenever you want. How does it feel to own so many precious things?
It feels good, It feels like this is part of my purpose, to protect these things. After all, some of these artifacts I receive in terrible disrepair, terrible lack of treatment, of care. Yes, I make sure some things go to museums. I'm not greedy. I don't believe everything should belong to me. After all, some of these things truly do belong in a museum, but, sometimes it's nice to keep a few things for myself. And why not? I deserve a little something, don't I? Here in my lovely gallery, again, part of the modern part of the house. Especially in the 10 years since my father passed and I became the sole inheritor of the Coleman fortune, I've done a lot of improvements to the house. Built some new parts of the house. Again, I kind of prefer those parts sometimes. They feel a little less unsettling at night.
This place has a history. And you find yourself heading to the balcony, as you often do when you are alone. You have something. The thing, you kind of hinted at it. There's something very, very special that you inherited that is just yours. In fact, it's an item that's very different from everything else that you have, in that it seemingly does not have a history. No one, including Miss Forrest, have been able to make any sense of who the people who made it were. This would either mean that it's from some hitherto unknown group of people, or that it's just an elaborate fake, with the latter being more likely. What's clear is that it has the shape of a knife. It has a sharp edge. It's made of metal, and it feels sturdy, but is extremely light. There's elaborate patterns that decorate it, patterns that you could swear change every time you look at them. Sometimes straight lines, other times geometrical patterns of different kinds. The thing is that nobody but you has been able to see this, though. And whenever you've had experts look at it, they haven't commented on the changing patterns at all. You know that this is much more than a knife, though, because when you hold it in your hands and you close your eyes, it shows you things. It only shows you, though, as though it was somehow tied to you.
And the only other person who I know that happened with was my father, though he didn't talk about it much until, well, barely a year before he passed. But no, that knife, the pinnacle of my collection. But again, I keep that downstairs, although of course, for some reason tonight, I don't know, as I've been wandering the gallery and going to the balcony and sipping my whiskey, I did just check. I always check downstairs, and I walked down there through several things. And yeah, funny, I don't remember taking it out, but here it is now on the balcony, but that's fine. No one's here, and it's mine. And yes, those symbols. My father once said something very vague. Somewhere from Europe. And I like to think that. It doesn't, to me, feel like Mayan or Egyptian or Roman. No, it feels, I don't know, Nordic somehow. Yeah, like surely it came from some place in Sweden or Denmark or Germany or I don't know, somewhere in that part of the world. But again, of course, I don't actually have any true evidence of that. But that's what I like to think to myself.
Yes. And you do as you often do. You sit down on the chair on the balcony and you hold the knife and you look up into the sky. And the knife, it shows you wonders beyond what your sight could ever show you. You see stars, brightly colored gas clouds, innumerable shards of rocks and ice floating through space right in front of your eyes. You freely explore worlds millions of light years away. They're all dead, but they are beautiful. They are so beautiful.
Take another drink of whiskey. I'm probably a little tipsy right now. How much of this is real and how much of it truly actually is something, I don't know, and I don't care, because it's good. It's good to dream. And this is important. This is what my father entrusted to me, among other things. And he even said his father, trusted it to him. It's a Coleman property. But the hour's getting late. I should probably put it back downstairs. I don't keep it with me, and It's too valuable. Someone want to steal this. No, that would be very, very bad. I don't know why I know that would be very bad, but I just know it would be bad. This is a wondrous item, but it's dangerous. I know it's dangerous. Someone else, in someone else's hands, this could be... Well, I don't know what it would do, but it won't be good. And so I'll go back downstairs, by the wine cooler, I put a little pass key in. I go down the stairs. This part of the house is old. I've installed new security measures, but it's old. And it's here, where some of the stuff that once belonged to my great-grandfather, and his father, and... well, I don't know. I don't even know how far the Coleman family goes back from there. I think my great-grandfather was just a prospector, you know? But who knows? But it's here. I keep it nice and safe, on a nice little red cushion, with a bit of lighting. It likes that. I think. Or maybe I like that. I don't know. Do knives have feelings? Probably not. So I'll put it there, and I'll make sure everything else in there is safe. There are a few other valuable things down here, but no, this knife is the prize of my collection, and it needs to be here. That's another thing as well. I don't know why, but it belongs here in... It likes to be here in Oregon. It could go somewhere else, but it wouldn't like that. No, it wouldn't like that. It needs to stay here. This is where it's safe. Safe for the knife, and safe for everyone else.
Can I now ask you to select 2 dramatic hooks?
Well, as always, one will be to keep my property safe. All of it. But a second one is that I would perhaps like to see Miss Forrest again. Maybe I could come up with some reason to invite her out to dinner. Maybe I could hold a different party somewhere else. So it doesn't always need to be in the house. Of course, I have parties in the house because it makes the place feel alive. Makes the place feel wanted. It's nice to feel wanted, and sometimes I like to think the house is just as lonely as I am. Of course, a lot of this I keep to myself. People would probably think I was a little eccentric to say things like my house likes company.
They just might. But then we have your 2 dramatic hooks, and we can let darkness fall on the Coleman house as well. You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the scenario A Hole in My Heart for KULT Divinity Lost. We have created this scenario ourselves, and this series is sponsored by Helmgast. The music was made by Atrium Carceri and was used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon: Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Antxon, Graham Barey, and Doug Thomson for their generous support. And would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for KULT Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play KULT with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that death is only the beginning.